President Biden under scrutiny after commuting a former Pennsylvania judge who was convicted of funneling juveniles for millions of dollars in kickbacks. Her son, our next guest, was caught up in the so-called Kids for Cash scheme and joins us right now. Sandy Fonzo is with us from Pennsylvania. Sandy, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Sandy, tell us a little bit about when you saw that this judge, who was convicted for essentially sending kids to jail longer so that the prison, the private facilities, could make more money. When you heard that Joe Biden pardoned this guy, commuted this guy's sentence, what did you think?
I was actually working, so I was driving, and my phone started blowing up. Everybody messaging me and calling me. I had no service for most of that day, so it kind of just hit me. I was filled with every kind of emotion, hurt, defeat. Now that I've had more time to process it, it's more of anger.
Yeah.
And just, this is very deeply upsetting and personal.
It is personal because your son, this guy sentenced your son to this private prison system. And the Washington Post has got an item today, and they describe what was going on. They write, to maximize the payout, they often gave kids the harshest possible sentence. Young people who were first-time offenders and probably should have received a warning or community service would end up locked up. Some were younger than 13. What the judges did caused tremendous harm to thousands of young people and their families. One young man died by suicide. Many youth became depressed and dropped out of school. The one young man is your son, Eddie. Eddie, explain what happened.
Eddie was, he was a good kid. He was, a wrestler in high school. He had his whole life ahead of him. He did nothing more than any other kids at that age do. He was at an underage drinking party, and he got caught, and he went in front of this judge. He was placed in our local juvenile detention center, and he was there for approximately 1 month. And in that time, I was speaking with all of them, and it was to teach them a lesson, to get them back on track. And so when he came back in front of the judge, I had letters from teachers, from his wrestling coaches, of my son's character. He wanted nothing more to just get back home and back to his life, and that didn't happen. He was sent to this facility, and God knows what happened in that facility, because when my son did come out, it was 8 months at that time, I believe. He was not the same person. He was pent up with anger and bitter for all the wrong. He would not accept any kind of counseling. He didn't want to look you in the eye. I don't know, and I can't imagine, and I try to not think about what happened to him in that facility, but he never recovered from it. We were fighting this, and these judges just had control. They had all the power, and nobody could say anything. Nobody could step up. I mean, there was a judge, Ann Lakuta, in our courthouse, and when she tried to step up, she was ousted. She was thrown out. Everybody was afraid. These judges just had power, and when they shut down that our community detention center, against, all the recommendations of our city board members, they built their own for-profit juvenile detention center, and this Conahan was president judge. And when that happened, he appointed Chivarella as the juvenile judge, and these kids were just funneled in and to keep these beds filled. And this went on for years, and until, the money was seen, that's when the feds finally stepped in and all this, came out.
Sandy, it sounds like your son should have gotten a warning or community service, but instead wound up going through the system and wound up committing suicide. You blame the judges for your child's death.
Absolutely. He ruined my son's life, my life. He ruined multiple lives. There's so many kids that have lost their life, not just my son. One of the boys that was 8, Charlie, that's actually in the documentary with us and went around and spoke out about this. He has lost his life since. There's so many kids that are still struggling. I've helped kids get out that got wrapped up in the system that were in. It's
inexplicable. Sandy, what is your message to Joe Biden, who commuted your judge's sentence?
Joe Biden came here and campaigned multiple times that he was, Joe Scranton, he was one of us. He knew of our struggles and he cared about our community and our kids and our families. And that is just absolutely not true. He is not one of us. We have an expressway named after him. I have to drive down and look at it every day, the President Biden Expressway and the Biden Street.
Yeah.
That's what I want done. I mean, there needs to be reform of how the overseeing of how these applicants are chosen for these pardons. And what I want to see is his name removed, because that's just, another slap in the face, another injustice on top of all of the grief that everybody in this community has already endured.
Those signs are a constant reminder of a constant pain that you live with as Eddie's mother. Sandy, I know this was hard for you to tell your story, but we appreciate you coming on today to tell us a little bit more about this Kids for Cash deal. Thank you, man.
Thank you for talk.
You bet. God bless you.
You had a great interview, a sad story, but this is so powerful. This woman was telling us, I'll let you set it up because you talked to her, but her story is something everybody can relate to. So many people in high school go to a party and the cops come and they bust you drinking.
So Sandy Fonzo joined us. That is her son, Eddie. Eddie was sentenced to a prison term by a judge in Pennsylvania for what Ainsley was just talking about. This is a kid who probably should have gotten a warning or community service, but instead he wound up with essentially jail time. And he wound up, after that time in jail, he came out a different person, as his mother just told us, and he wound up committing suicide. The Washington Post has got a headline, and this is the news peg here. Joe Biden gave the Kids for Cash judge clemency. That's how broken the process is. And they go on to say, to maximize the payout, they often gave kids the harshest possible sentence. Young people who were first-time offenders and probably should have received a warning or a community service would end up locked up. Some were younger than 13. What the judges did caused tremendous harm to thousands of young people and their families. One man died by suicide. Many youth became depressed and dropped out of high school. The young man is the son of Sandy Fonzo, who joined us in the last hour.
I was filled with every kind of emotion, hurt, defeat. Now that I've had more time to process it, it's more of anger and just, this is very deeply upsetting and personal. He ruined my son's life, my life. He ruined multiple lives. There's so many kids that have lost their life, not just my son. Joe Biden came here and campaigned multiple times that he was, Joe Scranton, he was one of us. He knew of our struggles and he cared about our community and our kids and our families. And that is just absolutely not true. He is not one of us. I mean, there needs to be reform of how the overseeing of how these applicants are chosen for these pardons.
So this particular judge wound up sentenced to 17 and a half years for essentially getting kickbacks. And I saw in the New York Post, the estimate is he made $2 million in kickbacks. So Joe Biden granted him clemency. Remember last week when you told you about how he had granted 1,500 acts of clemency and pardons? That's the guy. That is the guy that Sandy Fonzo regards as the person responsible for her son's death.
I'm floored by this story. One of my first jobs when I became an adult was being a student advocate in the juvenile justice system. And the judge that I was assigned to would often give second chances to these kids, but she was a tough judge. And she was tough because she used to be a school teacher. And she wanted to give them a way out. And when I first read about the story, I said, what would Judge Gilbert say about this? She would probably say, this guy deserves to be behind bars for the rest of his life because of what he did to the judicial system. It's such a responsibility. It requires honor and integrity. And the fact that he profited off of a criminal justice system, I think is disgraceful. And to further this, when he finally got punishment, to have the President of the United States release him, I think is just terrible. And this young man committed suicide as a result of this judge's actions.
Yeah, there are consequences for your sins. And what that man did was rob this mother of having Christmas with her son year after year, of him being able to grow up and get married and have children of his own one day. He was caught at a party where there was alcohol, and the judge put him in one of these facilities. It's a for-profit facility. So if he fills up the beds, then that facility is giving him kickbacks, I assume is how it was working. The guy and his co-conspirator were made up to $2.8 million. And the other guy is still behind bars, but this judge is out. So he gets all this money, and now these kids, I mean, how long did his mom say he was in that facility? 8 months, and he finally got out.
He served his term.
And she said when he got out, he couldn't look her in the eye. He refused to go and speak with a counselor. She said, no telling what happened to my son when he was in this facility. He was a changed man. He was never the same. And all because he was at a party where there was alcohol. That definitely should have been community service.
Well, I wonder if Joe Biden actually looked at the list of the people. Okay, what'd this guy do? Well, this is somebody from Pennsylvania. I should look into it. Oh, he's a judge. Oh, he did that?
He met the criteria, is what they said.
Right. They said the sentence, he demonstrated remorse and rehabilitation.
It's not about him being rehabilitated, though. It's about the harm that he has caused our justice system. And this is why you need a president of the United States that is aware, that knows what's going on. You can't have a staff, running the White House,
right here.
and just having this criteria. But so all of these offenders are connected to real people, and they all have stories to tell. Part of my job when I worked in juvenile was to assist with these, what we call divergent programs, to place these kids in places to improve their lives. The thought that, now I'm questioning everything. And I know these were good people, but it makes me, I can't even imagine a judge getting a kickback over a program that is supposed to better the life of these students.
Right.
Frankly, I'm surprised, and I just got to be honest, that the sentence was a divergent program for just being at a party where people were drinking. I never had a judge that assigned someone to a divergent program based on going to a party.
Right.
Now, maybe if they were drinking or something like that, they would assign them to a drug abuse program or anything. But attending a party, oh my God, that should have been a red flag to begin with. Yeah. And Joe Biden has released this guy.
Usually it's, okay, you got caught doing that next Saturday. You're going to go out and you're going to pick up trash for 5 hours. Or if it's not community service, it's like, okay, keep your nose clean for the next 6 months and it goes away. But not that.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable indeed.
All right. It's just hard.